Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard from pewterreport.com. Excited to be with you on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon. And we're turning the page, man. We're sick of talking about that loss on Sunday. We've covered it. Go back, listen to the post-game podcast, listen to us to detail the loss to the Saints, the refs, all of it. We talk about all of it. And we talked about it again on Monday. Had yesterday off to recover and recuperate from that loss. And now we are ready to turn the page, not to the offseason, yes, to the offseason, because it's the bye week. And we're going to take a look at a bunch of Bucs free agents. Oh boy, we got a lot of spots here all of a sudden. We're going to take a look at some Bucs free agents that are coming up this year. The 2022 offseason is going to have a ton of Bucs free agents. We're going to look at them. We're going to give our opinions, go around the table as Pewter Report staff and give our opinions on what we think is going to happen and what we think is going to happen with each of these free agents. And just kind of offer our opinions. And then tomorrow we're going to have Brad Spielberger from PFF on. He's going to give us the expert opinion and analysis. So we're excited for that. And of course, gentlemen, it's all brought to you as always by our friends over at Celsius. Celsius powers active lives every day with essential functional energy. We're all rocking our Celsius. You got the orange-sicle there, Scott?
I still do. Yeah, I'm hooked on it. It's gone from top 5 to top 3 for me. So it's I have orange sickle. They're right up there with me.
Yeah, easily top 3 for me as well. Well, the best thing about Celsius, you got a ton of different flavors with Celsius, and they're all awesome. You can see the link down below there. Celsius.com will allow you to use the store locator, find out where they are near you, and purchase some. But one of the best energy drink out there, to be honest with you, no sugar, essential energy, it accelerates metabolism, burns body fat. It's kind of everything you could ask for in an energy drink. It's good for you. There's no crash afterward. Gives you that good healthy energy, that good healthy boost, and the flavor, the taste is unbelievable as well. So make sure you check out Celsius, check out all the flavors that they have. You can click on the banner ads at pewterreport.com or go to Amazon, do the subscribe and save option, get them sent to you on the regular with Celsius. Good stuff from our people over at Celsius. We're going around the Pewter Report staff today, and we're getting everybody's kind of opinions and thoughts on this upcoming free agent class. Scott, I am going to actually try and go through JC and Casey first, and then get to you and Matt later in the show to try and get everybody through here because I want to get everybody's thoughts on this. And JC and Casey got to run after the first half hour. So I'm gonna pop you off here, and we'll get Casey on, and we'll get her opinion on some of these free agents that are coming up with the Bucs class. Let's start with the one and only Chris Godwin, obviously, who is going to be a free agent this upcoming offseason. Bucs fans probably have a lot of opinions about whether this is going to be a re-signing or not. They franchise tagged Chris Godwin, obviously. Couldn't come to an agreement on a long-term deal. We saw the wide receiver market was really pretty bad this past offseason. Guys like Juju Smith-Schuster and Kenny Golladay could not get an opportunity to get the kind of money that they wanted in the offseason. Golladay eventually did, but I think the Giants were paying against themselves there, and now they're probably regretting that quite a bit. JC, let's start with you here in the show, and let's talk about Chris Godwin. We got to go kind of rapid fire because we got a lot of players to get through today, but Chris Godwin, do you think he is back with the Buccaneers, and what do you think happens? Is it another tag? Is it a long-term, probably a long-term contract if they re-sign him? What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think they tag him and then long-term, and then they'll come to an agreement with a long-term deal.
So you think he's the frag, the tag? You think they use that tag on him?
Really? Yeah. I mean, looking at who's available, and we'll get into that. I think he's the most likely candidate to tag. You give him that double bump, but also I just think that Chris and Mariah, his wife, don't really want to go anywhere else. I mean, they played at Pitt. They're from Delaware. They've said multiple times that they'd like to stay in a warm weather climate. And you start looking around the league and looking around what teams could use wide receivers that are in a warm weather climate. There's really not many. I mean, both LA teams have good, strong wide receiving core. Dallas, no one's going to Houston. No one's going to Miami. No one's going to Jacksonville. Atlanta, is that warm weather kind of ish? They got Calvin Ridley, kind of, not really. So I mean, it really just leaves Tampa Bay, and I don't think they do a lot for the community. I don't think they want to leave. So I think they come to a reasonable agreement, and he sticks around for the long term.
Interesting. Okay, so you think they tag him, then sign a long-term deal with him?
I think they're going to have to tag him. Yeah,
you don't think they'll reach a deal with him before the tag?
They could, but okay. I think they end up tagging him first.
Okay, all right. So that's where you're using the franchise tag. Casey, what do you think? Are they tagging him? They re-signing him? What's going to happen with Chris Godwin?
Resign. I think that these conversations started last season, honestly, and because of his production rate and just kind of looking at some of the guys that are going to probably end up leaving and that rebuild phase that they're going to inevitably be looking at within the next year or two, you want to make sure you lock down a guy like Chris Godwin without any issues, without any mistrust, without any insecurity. So I think that they find a deal, come to a deal, lock him in for the next couple of years and move forward. Plus that tag can probably go elsewhere with, I think they have 20 unrestricted free agents heading into 2022.
Something
like
that.
A lot. Yeah. And realistically, if you look at some of the guys that are on that list, there's going to have to be a lot of negotiations or a lot of pay reductions or people just kind of saying, hey, I want to be a Buccaneer. That's the end of it. Pay me whatever. So I think they definitely have what it takes to keep Chris Godwin happy and lock in a deal because they're saying that he's in the conversations of the top 10 receivers in the NFL. You don't want that to slip through your fingers because franchise tags almost kind of mean like, hey, we're not sure, but then you kind of put all the chips on it at the end. So I feel like it causes a lot of negotiation problems or just rift for no reason.
Yeah, it can be difficult to start at that point. We've seen it get done before, but it will be interesting to see what they do, especially the second year in a row applying the tag. That the price is would be steeper in that case too. Obviously, if they reach a deal, that won't matter. But yeah, it can be difficult with the negotiation process when they don't let him hit the market at all. So we'll see what happens with that one.
And the bulk of the season too. Like he's a $12 to $14 million wide receiver, so those kind of things like franchise tags can either kind of dismiss people's initial value or kind of hijack it, which they can't afford to do that. Like they have too many guys that they probably have to get in or move elsewhere to be screwing with the capital.
Yeah, go ahead, JC.
I was just saying, I just think if you're Godwin, it makes more financial sense to start that bar right there and to not sign an agreement, get franchise tag. It gives you that automatic pay bump for going in the second year in a row. And looking at the other free agents, which we'll get into, I just don't see anyone else worthy of a tag, worthy of that type of money. You know, I mean, I don't know if you want me to spoil some of the guys' names.
No, we'll go to them next. But I'm interested to hear you unpack that a little bit more when we move to other guys next. I will say this about Godwin: what his contract is going to be, that's going to be a big negotiating point because if you would ask me last year, I would have said 18, 19 million a year. That's what he's probably looking at, 17 to 19, somewhere in that range. Then he gets the tag and other guys on the market don't really see the bump. And he's obviously had the injuries from last year and he didn't have 1,000-yard year last year. Maybe that contributed. But right now he's playing on the tag. And honestly, if he keeps up this pace, he's leading the team in receiving yards right now. He's having a great season. He does everything well. I don't see any way that they pay him. Like he might not get to the Hopkins 27 mil a year type of, that was a weird short deal anyway, or the Julio Jones 22 and Julio signed that. But 20 a year for Keenan Allen, 20 a year for Amari Cooper, 19 for Michael Thomas. That's the range he's in. I think he's in the 19 to 20 mil per. How they structure it, we'll see. But that's how I see the situation with Godwin paying out. But okay, so both of you think he's back one way or another. I like it. Good place to start the conversation, I think, there. I will give my thoughts here in a little bit, but definitely interesting thoughts from both of you on that one. Okay, let's talk about another guy who I think has a chance to be, I don't know, maybe in that tag conversation that you're talking about. And it's this guy right here, Carlton Davis. I think could be in that tag conversation. And we'll see. Casey, we'll go back to you for this one. Carlton Davis, what happens with the Bucs top corner this offseason? He is a free agent. He will have missed, let's see, week 4 he got hurt. He's going to miss. Maybe he's back for the Washington game. He has not been. His practice window hasn't opened up yet. So, yeah, he might miss half the season or at least a third of the season. And so what do you think happens with Carlton Davis?
This one was a bit of a toughie for me, but I do actually think that they'll make more of an effort to keep him in Tampa Bay because he's a favorite of that staff. You can just kind of tell when it comes down to, certain plays and certain game calls that they do rely heavily on Carlton Davis. They do have a lot of faith in him and stepping up and becoming more of a leader of this team and securing a spot. And because of how long he's been here, like, you don't want to bring certain young guys in and just kind of toss them out when the time comes. So from between that, and they also have some other people on defense they have to reevaluate, I think Carlton Davis is more of a shoe-in. The only issue is, like you said, he's dealing with the injuries now. We're not 100% when he's coming back. Then at the playoffs last season, I think he was out with another injury. So he's kind of been a little injury prone the last 2 seasons, but he's helped the team a lot in that position. So I think they'll try to keep him here, keep him back.
Yeah, I think it's a good point there. Carlton Davis, this injury situation could, in a weird way, work in the Bucs' favor in that he didn't have maybe enough season. We'll see how it finishes off. Obviously, if he has like a bunch of interceptions to close the year, maybe his profile gets raised. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he's going to command in the open market. JC, how do you feel about Carlton Davis?
Yeah, so to me, you talk about the franchise tag of Carlton Davis and the amount of games he could miss with injury. Obviously, looked like one of the top cornerbacks in the league before the injury, and he's shown that he can handle any really top wide receiver there is. He's done it to Julio. He's done it to Hopkins. He's done it to Adams. But is he worth $17 million a year? Is he a $17 million corner? And that's what the projected franchise tag is. Now, we just talked about Chris Godwin and saying he's probably a $19 million a year wide receiver, which, again, is what the projected 2022 franchise tag is. So I have no qualms about tagging him and paying him 19. I do have some issues about tagging a guy like Carlton Davis and paying him $17 million a year when, yes, he's put together some good things, but has he reached, is he an elite corner? Has he reached, and I'm super high on Carlton Davis. I think he's one of the best corners in the game, but has he reached that plateau where he's getting that 17, 18, 19 million dollars as a corner? And I think you can get him for less. I think you can get him for this year's franchise tag, which is 15. I think you can get him for probably less than that, 12. Maybe 13. So that's where my discrepancy comes with Carlton Davis in the tag. Although I really do think they want to keep him around, even though I think, it was unfortunate to have Sean Murphy-Bunting go down because I couldn't really see what they had in him from the get for a full season. And that really kind of, I think, throws a wrench in the Carlton Davis plans. I think they always want to keep him at a certain number, but, knowing that they had Sean Murphy-Bunting and Jamel Dean and they took the steps forward, they would have something to fall back on. Obviously, they did a pretty good job at drafting secondary in recent drafts. So, that's where I'm at with Carlton Davis. Love to have him back. Love to have him back more at that 12 to 13, maybe $14 million range, other than the 17.
Yeah, no, the discussion about Carlton Davis is going to get more fascinating if he comes back this year or if he misses some more time and he comes back and only plays a handful of games this year and isn't, statistically a standout or anything. I don't know where we're going to fall in the conversation on him because it gets tricky. His contract right now, I don't know whether it's going to end up being, like you said, you could set the tag right there, but if they were able to reach a contract with him, I think it could be average per year lower, a decent bit lower than the tag. I mean, him falling somewhere in the Xavier Howard restructure range, Darius Slay, by 15 to 16 mil a year wouldn't surprise me. And if he comes back and doesn't do anything that significant, I don't know. I mean, James Bradbury just got 14 and a half the other year.
That sounds about right.
That sounds about where he should be. And so this one to me is more likely maybe the tag and then you figure out how to sign him because I think there is that ability to negotiate down with him a little bit.
Yes.
Where Godwin, so I'm not sure he might be offended by the tag just because I think he's going to be a big
think so,
contract guy.
I think some players do take franchise tags offensively, though. It's just
he might not be offended. I don't know.
I just think that both of these players love Tampa, love playing here, and they'll both take a little bit less to stay here. I'm not saying a huge.
I think that's a lot of players, though. I do agree.
But I don't think if I had to choose between a $19 million tag on Godwin and a 17 on Carlton Davis, I know I'm going to pay Godwin 19. I don't know if I want to start the negotiations at 17. Because you got to look at it the 3-year window, right? Okay, if I tag you this first year, I tag you the second year, I tag you this third year, agents are going to say, hey, this is what I want over the first 3 years of this contract, because if you were to tag in the first 3 years, this is what he would make. And that gets a little more slippery with a Carlton Davis than I think it does with a Chris Godwin. And certainly the next guy. No way.
Ryan Jensen. Is that the next guy you're thinking? Ryan Jensen, free agent. He will be 31 this spring after free agency. He'll be 30 when he hits free agency this spring before next season. He'll be 31. He has been very durable over the course of his career, knock on wood, but this is probably, we'll see, maybe people in the chat have a difference of opinion on this one, but I would say he's probably up there with their next biggest free agent, probably. Most people agree Chris Godwin, Carlton Davis, top the list. Jensen has been a culture changer. He's been a huge boost to the offensive line. Tom Brady has always valued the center role. I think wherever he's gone, he's made sure that they have good players there. It is a position that might be more replaceable than a star wide receiver and certainly than a top corner. But at the same time, he means a lot to the city, and maybe he could be a guy that plays 2 more years and finishes it out in Tampa Bay, or does he want a 4-year deal? There's a lot of Jensen's at that age, that weird age gap where he's been durable and he still could maybe get one more big deal. Might be on a bad team, a team with a lot of money to throw at him that isn't necessarily good. What does he want in his career? That could be a tricky part of this. Does he want to go somewhere that wants to run the ball a ton and mash people up? I don't know. But JC, let's go to you first on this one. What happens with Ryan Jensen? Is he back in Tampa Bay or does he move on to another location?
I'll tell you what, he's not back on a $16 million franchise tag. That's for sure. Even if it was
that is for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
The center tag is not 16 million, is it?
It's an all interior line, and it's at. Thank Joe Tooney for that, because it's up to 16 million.
Gosh.
16.6 projected next year for the franchise, 14.9 for the transition. Last year, it was yes. So
that is insane. I mean, there isn't a center in the league making 16 million a year right now. So that doesn't make any sense.
And you explained Jensen to a T. Gritness, toughness, being able to kind of turn it around and still bring that without the penalties that he first brought when he came to Tampa Bay. I love Jensen on the field. I love him off the field. I think he's a great player. He's a great leader. But they drafted Robert Hainsey for a reason, and they converted him to a center for a reason. And I think of the 2 big offensive linemen they have, I think one of them you can get for cheaper than the other one. With Ryan Jensen, I think if he comes back to Tampa, you're probably looking at 2 years, $22 million, a slight raise, $1 million raise, 2 years, like you said. It also depends on if they win the Super Bowl again. Where is he? Because you're right, he's in that weird thing. If he goes elsewhere, I see him landing up probably a deal for 3 years, 36, 3 years, 38, something like that, just because of his age. And he could definitely cash in, I think, make more money elsewhere. But it really depends on this next grouping of guys and how much they can get them back and what they're paying them before they bring a guy like Ryan Jensen, because I think you drafted his replacement this past year, depending on his progression, and Robert Hainsey. So
you say Jensen is not back?
I'm not saying he's not back. I'm saying there's other guys who might not be the big 3 that I would prefer to bring back before spending that money on Jensen.
Okay. All right.
Depending on how you do deals, salary cap, obviously.
I don't disagree with you. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, although I think he's very important. But
I do.
Okay, so that's your philosophy behind it. Now, what do you say? Is he back or is he not? No fence riding. You got to make a prediction. This isn't what you would do. This is what you think. Well, this is a prediction.
I think he's probably gone. But it also depends on the other guy and how much he prices himself out. Because I think Robert Hainsey's position flexibility to play guard as well could allow you to keep one over the other. It's going to be a difficult decision either way between those 2 guys. So he could be back. He could be gone. I can't make a clear definition.
Okay.
Sorry.
So you think he's probably gone, but you admit that it's a tough one. I agree with you. It's a tough one. Casey, what do you think about Ryan Jensen?
I think he stays. I think the biggest factor on whether he stays or whether he goes is how this season ends, because I think Tom Brady's a guy of repetition and consistency, and he knows he can count on that offensive line. He's going to want as many of those guys back as possible. And if they finish off and they end up going back to the Super Bowl and getting a W, okay, then, restructuring some positions, losing some guys, rebuilding that chemistry in the offseason is one thing. But if you fall a little short and you want that opportunity to go hard for another run, then that's going to change who you are, okay with losing, who you're okay with rebuilding with. So I think Jensen is too much of a key asset. I mean, to play nearly every game. I think last season he only had 4 penalties. This season he's doing much better. A lot of these guys, especially the whole offensive line, have stepped up so much since Brady came in to the pocket. So I say Jensen stays.
Okay, all right. Ryan Jensen back in the fold for Casey. I like it. Good reasoning by both of you on that one. We're going to go a little more rapid fire style through the rest of these free agents, okay? So bear with me as we run through. But first, I got to let the people know where they can get a little bit of money in their pocket. It's over with our friends at UnderdogFantasy.com. You can talk about pick'em games over there. They're pick'em games. I'm enthralled with them. I love them. On Underdog, you can select over or under on player stat lines, get a pick 2 correct, and you can triple your money. Get a pick 5 correct, and you win 20 times the amount of money you enter with. 20 times the amount of money just for getting a pick 5 correct. or go for the pick 2, man. Double it up. It's great. It's a lot of fun too. The NBA player over under stat lines are fun if you're into that. They've got NHL on there, obviously tons of NFL player prop bets on there as well. Go to underdogfantasy.com, download the app, sign up with the promo code Pewter, Pewter, build the pick'em slip in seconds. They're going to give you a free $10 when you sign up, then make your first deposit. So download the Underdog Fantasy app, sign up with that promo code Pewter, and get your free $10 today. If you go over to Underdog Fantasy, you can see a bunch of the tournaments they have right up there on the main page. You can jump in those. Chance to win a ton of money for very little entry fee. And like I said, they give you the $10 when you sign up today. So make sure you jump in there, use that promo code Pewter, Pewter, and do that today. All right, let's go. JC, you first on this one. Oh, wait, no, Casey first on this one. Alex Kappa, Casey, starting right guard for the Bucks, going to be a free agent. This is his first chance to get paid. He was a 3rd-round pick, so he's looking for that cheese. What happens with Alex Kappa?
Well, okay, if they had to lose anyone, I think it's okay for them to lose Kappa. I know that he's been a significant part of that line. He didn't start off as hot as everyone kind of assumed that he would coming out of college. His first 2 seasons were a bit shaky. But last season, kind of like I mentioned before with the Jensen thing, the whole O-line stepped up, and so did he. He had, I think, only 1 penalty the entire season last year. So for Kappa, I think he's a little bit more replaceable just because, you don't know if he's going to continue to progress or if he's going to continue to hold off at this higher level that he is playing at. I don't see it as a complete sense of urgency to keep him here either. So I would say that if anyone's going to go first, it would be Kappa.
Okay. Alex Kappa gone. JC, what do you think?
For me, it's whoever prices themselves out. If Kappa prices himself out, which I think he probably will. I think you keep Jensen, Robert Haynes. You can play him at guard. You also got guys like Sedarius Hutchinson, John Molchan, Nick Leverett, all waiting in the wings. You could draft a guy. You could bring back Aaron Stinney, who's also a free agent. So, it depends on price, obviously, for all these decisions. But if Kappa prices himself out too high and you can bring back Jensen, I think that's the move. And you say, Stinney, you're just going to be playing a guard instead of center.
There's no way Kappa costs as much as Jensen does. I think we probably all agree on that. But term will be a big indicator. Does Jensen want a 4-year deal? He'll be 31 next season. Does he want a 4-year deal? Is that what he's looking for? And maybe the 4th year is not really that much guaranteed, so a team could get out of it even 3 years. Or, Kappa obviously is going to be looking for a 4 or 5 year because of his age. That's what I want. But, Matt Filer, like the Chargers signed him last year. He's older than Kappa, but I think that's pretty much where, you might be looking at like $7 million per year for Alex Kappa. I don't think he's going to be a $10 million a year player. So money wise, it's doable. It's just who else do you want to re-sign and where does he fall on the priority list, I think. Okay, let's keep rolling through the list here. Casey, Jason Pierre-Paul, going to be 33, I believe, next year. Yeah, and let's be honest, the guy's health, yikes.
A lot of injuries.
What happens with JPP?
I 100% think JPP is coming back for multiple reasons. Regardless of the injuries, he's just such an elite player. To be out there with the thing on his hand, to still be getting involved in plays. But even aside from what he does as a player on the field, it's his leadership. Top of the season, we saw him go out from injury, and you just saw the entire energy of that defense come to a standstill. He's a leader on the field. He's a leader in that locker room. He energizes those players. I think losing a presence like his this upcoming season would be a bit of a mistake. And you know that he wants to be a Buccaneer. He's not the kind of guy who's going to play for 5, 6, 7 teams, maybe even 3, 4, 5 teams. So I would see him coming back. I would see him kind of not asking for a lot to stay in Tampa, but obviously enough to show his worth of what he does on the field. And he's a good coach and a good guy to start coaching up Joe Tryon in the right direction so he can start solidifying that spot when it is time to have real conversations about JPP exiting. So I definitely don't see them getting rid of Jason Pierre-Paul.
Okay. JPP is back. JC, you agree?
JPP is too prideful. He's way too prideful to take a back seat. And that's what he's going to have to do to a guy like JTS, because the time is now for JTS to start getting more snaps. You wrote about it. Bruce Arians said he wants to see it. I'm sure they're going to have a meeting about getting JTS more involved. Joe Tryon is the future at that position. And let's face it too, Jason Pierre-Paul's making $13.5 million this year. He's not going to come back for half of that, which would be, let's just quick math, $6 million. I don't see JPP taking a prideful swallow of taking $6.5 million and also a backup role to JTS. Just don't see it happening. You move on. JTS is the future. Bye, JPP. Thank you for your contributions.
All right. Wow. JC, he said, get him out the door. He said, get him out the door. All right. Brian Shaw brings up a good point here. Does Devin White get re-signed if he continues playing the way he has? Good news, Brian Shaw. We have 2.5 years to keep figuring this out. So they'll definitely pick up the option. They got the rest of this year. They got next year on the rookie deal. They got to pick up the option. 5th year. That's not going to be too expensive. So we got plenty of time to figure out before we have to answer that question about Devin White. So good try trying to trip me up, trying to take this clip and put it on Twitter and tag Devin White so he can block me again. But no, I'm not going to answer that question right now. I plead the 5th, Brian Shaw.
You really almost got baited into that one. That's
almost, but not quite. Will Golson and Ndamukong Suh. Let's do a double whammy here. What happens with Will Golson and Ndamukong Suh this offseason, JC?
Will Golson, I think you bring him back. He's had a great season so far, really getting after the quarterback a lot more. And I don't think he's going to cost you as much. His contract is still one of the best contracts for a defensive end that produces like he does in an underrated role. I think he comes back. And Suh's already given out investment advice, financial advice. He's ready to hang. I mean, he came back for a world tour. Everyone was coming back. Victory. He's going to retire. Spend time with those 2 adorable kids he has, and start doing some more investments with what's that dude's name with all the money? I forget. Margaritaville. Jimmy Buffett. He'll be hanging out at Margaritaville with Jimmy Buffett making an investment. So he's done. But Will Golson, you bring him back 2-3 years, depending on the contract, how you structure it. But he's definitely back. I think you bring him. You can't lose everyone on that D line.
Casey, you agree?
I agree. I couldn't have said it any better. I think Suh's gearing up towards retirement. He's got the 2 cute new kids. He's got investments. He's got businesses in Oregon, Portland, wherever he's from. He's set to fade out very easily, very happily.
Yep.
So.
Yep. What happens with the running back situation, Casey? Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones, Giovanni Bernard, all free agents. How do you see it playing out with those 3?
What happens, or what does Casey want to happen?
Let's go. What does Casey want to happen, and then what will happen?
Okay, what Casey wants to happen is bye-bye Rojo. You're going to have to probably get rid of Gio Bernard. Honestly, bye Rojo, bye Gio. Even though I like Bernard, I think he can be a huge asset to the team. He's performed every time that he's put in, even in the small role that he is given. The thing is, the Bucks need to draft a proper running back. They really have to go for a guy who's going to give them the next 4 to 6 years of his prime, of his peak, and be able to perform. It's Rojo's running back style that I don't love. It's his lack of consistency that I don't love. So what Casey would like is leave Lenny, pay him, because he's going to ask for more money. I mean, he was almost out the door last season, even with a Super Bowl ring. So
yeah, he got
you're going to have to give this guy money.
3.25 last offseason for a 1
Yeah,
year.
so you're going to have to pay Leonard Fournette, and I think that you take the risk and find a quality running back in the draft. What will probably end up happening, no matter what happens, Bruce Arians has this love of like this coddle situation for Ronald Jones. I don't know if I personally can see him. Is that your Ronald Jones, JC?
He's excited about Rojo.
Clearly. I don't see Bruce Arians giving up on him because, game after game, he still speaks very well, although he did do that with Jameis Winston. And then the minute that a better opportunity came about, they did what was right for the team. So I don't see Rojo coming back if there's no over loyalty there to keeping him here. I think that they pay Leonard Fournette because he's still pretty young. He's 26 years old. He's doing well. He's probably only going to do that much better once he feels more secure with the team, and they need to draft a running back.
All right, Rojo, 5 years, $60 million. Long lost Glazer says he wants to bring Rojo back at $12 million per.
Pay the man his money. This is where the franchise tag goes if it's not Godwin.
There you go. No. By the way, the good thing about this one, running back's just not that expensive. So I mean, even if Leonard gets a pay bump, $5 to $6 million a year, which I mean, it's expensive when you're trying to re-sign everybody else. In a vacuum, it's not. And Rojo, he's probably looking at a 1 year prove it deal unless something changes and he can show progress in some area. He's probably not looking at a big deal, even as young as he is, by the way. But Rojo's 24 years old. JC, what
clarification, I don't not like Gio Bernard. I think he does very well. I would love for Gio Bernard to return and have a larger role with the team. But realistically, between his contract and who they need to bring in here and thinking long term, I don't know.
Okay, so JC, you want them all?
Wipe them all out. See you later. Get out of here, Rojo. Get out of here, Gio. Get out of
Jeez.
here, Leonard Fournette. Thank you for your contributions or lack thereov. Get out of here.
No
We'll
running
find
backs at
somebody
all.
else. No, we don't need. Sorry, Gio, you've been great.
11
We'll find another
personnel
scat
only.
back.
Five receivers the whole time, huh?
No, we'll bring in running. You just bring in running backs. You draft. I think you draft one. I think you're looking at defensive tackle. I think you're looking at secondary. I think you're looking at running back. Those first 3 picks. That's
All right,
probably
Chris
what you're
Godwin
looking
to
at.
running back. Got it.
That's hey, he's been great so far this year. Scored a touchdown, right? So
I know.
no, I think that I think you can move on from all 3 of those guys and find
Okay,
other
wow.
people. Maybe Leonard Fournette. Maybe if he comes back at 3.5, maybe 4 million. But that's it. Everyone else is gone. See you later.
Wow. So
Thank
Lenny's
you.
not even getting a pay bump. Jeez.
Not much.
It's a tough world out here.
Half a million.
Tough world out here. All right. OJ Howard, Rob Gronkowski, both free agent tight ends. They're also the looming. I mean, Cam Brady's under contract for 1 more year. I don't even know what his contract is at this point. It's been restructured so many times. OJ Howard and Rob Gronkowski. What happens with these guys? Gronk want to play another year? What goes on with OJ? What happens in your opinion, JC?
Gronk retires. He's already facing back spasms, had back injuries throughout his career, a punctured lung, ribs. I'm sure he might be a little miffed of having to go back in that Rams game. We haven't been able to talk to him to ask him.
I'm sure he was not miffed. I just like to declare, just because he wanted to go in the freaking. That's why he was playing in the Saints game. He couldn't even. He looked terrible.
Come on.
Bruce said he's couldn't keep him off the field. He was trying to get out there. I don't think he was miffed about the Rams game. Nobody made him go back in except himself. But your point about his health and at this point in his age or in his career is a good one though, because that matters in this.
Yeah, back spasms, back injuries. I think he's done, and I think that OJ Howard is probably the guy who's going to stay in Kansas City or somewhere else where they need a tight end. Not in Tampa Bay though. He's out of here too. See you later. We'll find another tight end somewhere. We'll draft.
Okay, all right. So no tight ends, no running backs. JC is gonna run the 5 wide receiver show. I got it.
We got Cam Brate and Keyshawn Vaughn. We're
the
good.
entire
All
offense.
right. Screw these guys. All right, let's talk about a wide receiver then. Antonio Brown. I'm assuming you want him back then, JC, if you're going to run 5 wide receiver all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I think Antonio Brown, obviously health has been already an issue this season, but it really depends on where his mindset is and what he wants to do, right? And how long Tom Brady's going to play. Do they sign him for another 1-year deal? I think he's been playing, and we can all agree he's been playing when he's been healthy. Outstanding, lights out, almost like the AB of old, except for that drop catch in New England. But I think – he could maybe parlay this into a deal somewhere else where he could get a pay raise in a couple of years on it, potentially.
Yeah.
But no, I think he probably comes back, slight bump up, and you're looking at running those 3 wide receivers, Cam Brate and Keyshawn Vaughn. That's your offense. Boom.
All right. Hezo says JC trying to take us back to the 2009 Bucks.
Why? Getting rid of an aging, injured
Oh, my
Leonard
word.
Fournette?
He's acting like Gronk and these guys aren't playing well. All right, Casey, go ahead. What do you think happens with the tight ends in AB?
Gronk comes back for sure. I see Tom Brady and Gronkowski as a package deal. And even though his injuries have been a bit of an issue, you have to think last season he was fine. He played, if not every single game, he played every game but one or came out for half of one game. The guy said that his body was feeling better, and that's the only reason he came out of retirement. Now, if you want to talk about pride, I don't think anyone comes out of retirement to play 2 seasons and is injured for multiple games the second season. Like, if he's going to retire, he's going to go out on a high note, and Tom Brady's going to be the guy that keeps him in check to do so. So Gronk's definitely coming back. OJ Howard, I think he's a better fit for a different team. He just hasn't hit that spark yet for the Bucks. He's had, some quality plays, but he hasn't been the tight end that they actually drafted him to be. I know that he was dealing with his injuries, but I still think it's going to be a minute before he gets, really going as a tight end. And plus, they can't only rely on Gronk to be their versatile tight end. And so if Cameron Brate's out the door in a year, eventually that's something else looking down the line position-wise. They're going to have to get an all-around tight end in that position so that they can actually count on someone when Rob Gronkowski is gone.
Yeah.
Am I moving on to Antonio Brown? Antonio Brown's See, it's very hard because I always like to look at the personal relationship of these guys as well. I mean, where do you realistically, where do you see Antonio Brown going if not staying with the Bucks? This is the team that's, been with him through one of the toughest moments in his life, the team that actually had compassion and empathy during his legal situations. He looks at Tom Brady as family and a counterpart to kind of keep him on the right track. I would think of of him as the kind of guy that wouldn't be money hungry and would just want to play football. I mean, that's what he says it's all about, just playing the game that he loves. So I can see Antonio Brown back for another year.
All right. Interesting. All right. Last two in the secondary, Jordan Whitehead and Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman's probably an easy one, but it's a big name, and I knew people would bring it up, so I just threw him in there. What happens with Richard Sherman and Jordan Whitehead, JC?
Yeah, throw Richard Sherman in a walker and push him down the street. See you later, Richard Sherman. Thank you. You got no speed.
GMGC is ruthless.
My gosh.
I'm just done.
Hire him as a coach.
Listen. Someone just said, what is just, listen. The cap's going up next year. They're going to have some money. They structured these contracts out so they're not taking huge, massive hits with the void years in each single year. Richard Sherman, if you bring Carlton Davis back, you got your top 3 back. What do you need Carlton Davis for? You signed Ross Cockrell, so you got your top 4 back. You don't need Richard Sherman. Thank you for your service. Have a great night. Hopefully they won a Super Bowl ring and you got your ring. This next guy is someone who, before the season and in the offseason, I was like, yeah, they don't need him. They could move on with him. Completely changed my mind with his play this season. Has been a pivotal cornerstone to the secondary. I think Jordan Whitehead is probably the 3rd most important free agent on this team.
Wow.
I'm looking at Godwin, Davis, and then Jordan Whitehead. I think you can make do on the offensive line with a guy like Robert Hainsey, even though we haven't seen him. I take the coaches and the players at their word for how well he's been progressing. Also, those 12 snaps against Miami. Don't forget those, John. And I think guard, you can find another guard as well. I think if you're looking at what this team has and now the reputation, now players are going to want to come here. Players have already started to want to come here. Well, now you have an offseason. You got holes to fill. You didn't have holes to fill. So even if players wanted to come here this year, there was nowhere to put them really because you brought everybody back. Next year, completely different scenario situation, depending on how far they go into the playoffs, let alone if they win a Super Bowl. I think this team will be able to attract free agents, no matter what. Beautiful weather, Tom Brady, winning culture, winning organization, no state tax. And I think that you'll be able to bring other guys in here. But Jordan Whitehead, to me, I think he's a harder player to replace in this defense, in this system, because of the type of safety he is. And for that reason, I think he's probably right on the borderline of one of the top safeties in the league for what he does. And I think that he is very pivotal for this defense. And for that reason, he's definitely staying. And he's my 3rd priority going into the offseason after CD and CG.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Wow. Jordan Whitehead. So this is really confusing because if he's one of the top safeties in the league, is he getting paid in the 15 to 17 mil a year category? That is no chance that happens, in my opinion. But Jamal Adams is the highest paid safety in the league, and he's not even good. So that makes it really hard to figure out. I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah.
He's kind of good, but he's not. He's not worth what he's being paid.
The franchise tag this year was $10 million for safeties. Next year it should project to be $13 million. So I think you can get him somewhere in between there, maybe even less, depending on the length of years, guaranteed money, and how much you put up front.
Yeah, I can't see him at more than 10 a year, but that would be right in the range you're talking about. So interesting. He'll be fascinating one to see how the season finishes for. Casey, what are your thoughts on Jordan Whitehead and Richard Sherman to close this thing out?
I definitely think Richard Sherman's out. I think he hasn't really done much. I know that, he was in for 2 games before getting injured, and then, you don't know what the return's going to look like. And he's also somebody who's up there in age. So Richard Sherman's out. It would be great if they bring him back as a coach, because we all saw that a lot of people, really loved seeing him in that coaching position, and he was helpful. As for Jordan Whitehead, this one's tough. I don't hold him as high on the pedestal as JC does, but he's obviously been a pivotal help for this defense, but I also think it's because of the position that this defense has been put in since the top of the season. So, Jordan Whitehead has been a key asset to this team. I think he's replaceable, especially if he's going to want to get paid.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good thoughts and analysis from both of you. You've got people, somebody write it down. JC's team, what do you think is going to happen in the offseason? Casey, this is who they think will not be Bucs. So these are our early predictions. Midseason, there's a lot still to learn, but this is their midseason predictions. We're going to get Scott and Matt in here to give their thoughts as well. But first, a message from our friends at Immuni Financial.
At Amuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Dude, congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you. And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. AIM Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Go do it. Go to Colorado, right?
Do it.
How are you gonna do that? Well, you're gonna do that by calling our friends over at Immuni Financial and visiting their website, immuni.com. Managing your family's wealth means more to Immuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. It means legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts, and insurance services. With over 40 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area, let Immuni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead. Call Immuni Financial at 1-800-868-6864. That's 1-800-868-6864. Visit immuni.com. I can speak from experience, fellas. I'm an Immuni client and extremely happy with the service and attention to detail I have over there with David and Mark, and my investments are in very good hands. So give them a call.
There you go. All right, let's get through it. We got a lot of free agents to talk about today. Scott and Matt, you both were waiting in the wings, listening to JC and Casey.
It all starts with QB1 for the future, which, John, I noticed you omitted. I mean, nobody's perfect.
I just was going to offer it to you, Scott. I was only going to let you comment in case you'd be angered by someone else's opinion on free agents.
I mean, I get the fact that Kyle Trask was drafted in the second round. He's got some draft credentials working in his favor, but we have not seen enough of Kyle Trask. What we have seen is the fact that Blaine Gabbert is undefeated. The Buccaneers are undefeated when Blaine Gabbert has an appearance this year.
Fact.
And I think
hard to debate that.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's the top priority, but he's up there. So
he's
let's
clearly okay. So Blaine Gabbert's back. We all agree, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's move to the less important free agents like Chris Godwin. First of all, both of you, as you get into the Chris Godwin conversation, we talk about this a little bit. What did you think about Casey and JC? What did you both bad? Scott, you're out on both of their takes.
I did not bad from both. I didn't agree with Godwin getting the franchise tag again.
Agreed.
It doesn't make sense to me. I think they're going to use it on Carlton Davis, and really for the reason to give Carlton 1 year. Right, as a
prove it year,
exactly. Because this year you're only going to get half a season, and you're trying to make a long-term projection on last year and then half of the year this year. So, I think the Bucs are going to have enough cap room to do that, Matt, where they're going to be able to look at Chris Godwin, and I thought Casey was right on about that, where they've already started negotiations. Godwin's having a really good year. If he ends up healthy and over 1,000 yards, I think they look at it and say, you know what, Matt and John, 2 out of the last 3 years, Godwin has gone over 1,000 yards, led the team in catches, touchdown production is great. He's legit. So I think the framework is being done on a long-term deal that's executed after the season. But the franchise tag, not going to go in Chris Godwin. It's going to go in Carlton Davis for the same reason they did Shaq Barrett.
Okay.
They want to see one more year, that prove a year that Matt's talking about.
So you think both are back though, Scott?
I do. Yes.
Both are back. Okay. I agree with you on both. I think Chris Godwin I think they wanted to do a long-term deal. I mean, we know they wanted to do a long-term deal with Chris Godwin this past offseason. I don't even know if it was somewhat, you're right, Scott, because of the health, not playing every game. Maybe, it wasn't like they wanted to go 19 million, obviously. Like otherwise that probably would have got done. In the wide receiver market dipped like crazy last year. I think Godwin was like, all right, hold off. I'm going to play on this tag. Like I'm going to take my chances. I'm going to get paid on this tag and then I'm going to hit the market and I'm going to push the 20 million barrier. And I think he will this offseason. And I think the Bucs will pay it. I know everybody's like, oh, Mike Evans and AB, and you're paying 2 wide receivers a lot of money, at least with Evans and Godwin. Now he's that valuable, that important to the team. Culturally, what they do, it makes a lot of sense. Matt, you agree?
Yeah, so Scott and John, what I was going to say is when I look at the big three, essentially, as you portrayed it, John, with Chris Godwin, Ryan Jensen, and Carlton Davis, when I look at these guys, I'm thinking, obviously, the financial part of it, but I look at it more as like how valuable is each player to the offense or defense. And I just feel like with Chris Godwin, he's almost getting to a point where he's irreplaceable in this offense for what he can do playing in the slot. So versatile. I would say versatile. I guess it's versatile. And just like he does it so almost nonchalantly in a way where he's leading the team in receiving yards again, but everyone else is getting attention. But what Chris Godwin does, he's worth all that money, and that's why I think he's so important.
Especially in the run game too, as that slot blocker.
And he blocks, he can take handoffs and stuff as he's proven now this season too. And to your point, Scott, about Carlton Davis proving it, giving him that Shaq Barrett franchise tag for one season. I mean, you look at some of the highest paid corners in the league for average annual value, like Jalen Ramsey's at the top, 20 million. Right. Then you go Marshawn Lattimore, 19.5. Marlon Humphrey is the same number. You go down to like the top 5. You got Xavier Howard at 15 million. Yeah. Are we really saying that Carlton Davis is a $15 million cornerback? I really like Carlton Davis, but I don't think he's in that top 5 yet. He's proving himself to be that shutdown corner that the Buccaneers need. But of course, with the injuries, that plays a whole different, scenario into this whole thing. So I think that's really important to look at when you're deciding through these players.
I think you're exactly right. Godwin's importance to the team matters. He's going to get the long-term deal. With Davis, I agree with you again, Matt. It's a situation where shutdown cornerbacks are hard to find, right? They don't grow on trees. You can draft one, but your chances of getting a Jalen Ramsey out of the gate as a rookie are few and far between. And so you have to grow corners, right? They do grow on trees, but it takes a couple of years, right? And you got to plant the tree. So I think that he's too valuable to escape Tampa, but I think they like him a little bit better at the $15 million range. But I think they're willing to overpay for a year just to have that 1 year, so they're not locked into him for a long term. Unless they go to him and say, "Hey, we'll give you long-term security." Because listen, I've done this for 26 years. I know that there are players out there that have taken deals, not so much taking less money to stay because they like the team, but they like the security. They like the fact that gosh, I got injured last year. If I'm on a 1-year deal again, what happens if I get injured again? Gosh, 2 years in a row, my market value tanks. So that could be a situation where they go to Carlton before they franchise and say, "Listen, we're thinking about franchising you, but we've got you pegged around 14.5, 15 million per year.
Yeah.
What do you think over 4 years?" And maybe he says, "I'm in. I'll do it because of that security."
And with just one more thing, one more point I want to make too. Let's face it, the Bucs are 6-2, and it's great, and they sure want Carlton Davis more than they could really ask for, but they've gotten by without Carlton Davis. Where if Chris Godwin was out and it was just Mike Evans at receiver, and AB keeps doing the he'll play a little bit, then get hurt, and then play again, I think the Bucs would much rather sign up for what they have going on right now versus losing Chris Godwin and having Carlton Davis for this whole season. That's just my thought, but I think the Bucs would agree with that.
I mean, wide receiver is the most important, other than quarterback. It's the most important position in Bruce Arians' offense.
And Bruce has said that. This is a wide receiver-driven offense.
Right. And not only to have one guy, but to have multiple guys. That you get to that point, you have to pay multiple guys a lot of money, and then you fill out the rest of them. And they've done that with Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller's drafting, and they'll continue to do that. We'll talk about AB in a little bit, but to me, you got to bring back Chris Godwin, man. You cannot let that. And people, Tyler Johnson's good. He ain't ever going to be Chris Godwin. I'm just sorry. That's not a knock. It's just Chris Godwin to me is a top 10 receiver in the NFL. And I think that he deserves to be paid.
I think the thing is Tyler Johnson is Chris Godwin's shadow. And by that, I mean, he looks the same. He looks very similar, same type of player, but he's behind, right? Your shadow's always behind you. And so I think that Chris Godwin's A and Tyler Johnson's B, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and Godwin's it's such an important player for them. And to me, the tag just makes a lot of sense for Carlton Davis before his injury. Now, after his injury, it really makes sense. It makes sense for him too. I don't think it's going to be offensive to him. I think it's going to be all right, I need to show what I can do to hit the market healthy. And if it's the Bucs that end up giving me a big deal, great. Right. I do think the Bucs offer him something. I think they offer him, they look at, look at this $13 million a year. Dory Jackson just got that. And, Shaquille Griffin and William Jackson got that in free agency from Washington. That's the range. He's in that kind of a range, I think, until he proves otherwise. So, hey, would you be interested in 12, 13 million a year? And we'll, structure it in a way that, you get those, make sure the fourth year is guaranteed. You're not going to get released. Right. I think that is a possibility. And he could agree to that depending on what his situation he feels like is long-term. But that's how I see it. Maybe Bruce probably didn't give him much leverage though when he said multiple times he thinks Carl Davis is a top 5-10 corner in the NFL.
You could see Mike
Double-edged
Greenberg
sword complimenting
upstairs in
player.
the office going, "Shut your mouth."
Yeah, exactly.
Shut
They
it.
run the tape back on that one. It
Yeah.
might not go.
Jason's like,
bucks
"No,
away.
no."
Yeah, you couldn't say top 15, Bruce. Like,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah, exactly. Ryan Jensen, what happens with him this offseason? Probably, in my opinion, well, first of all, do you think he's the third most valuable free agent talking about here? And do you think he's back?
Well, third, I mean, are you counting Blaine Gabbert in that? Because
Okay, yes. Is after Blaine Gabbert,
Okay.
would he be
No,
the fourth?
It's Blaine Gabbert and everyone else.
Yeah, well,
So,
yeah, if we're being honest, yes. But I think that Ryan Jensen is going to stick with Tom Brady. I think that they like that combination. Those two guys have worked incredibly well together in terms of protections. Yeah, I mean, say what you want about Ryan Jensen. Sometimes the snaps are high. Tom Brady's 6'5". He can go up and get it. We haven't seen disaster strike yet, and I think those errant snaps are a little few and far between. But I think Ryan Jensen is critical, and to take the chance of disrupting that chemistry on offense between the guy who touches the ball on every play, Ryan Jensen, and the other guy touches the ball on every play, Tom Brady, is foolhardy for what would be Brady's last year in Tampa. Maybe or maybe 2 more years. So I think it's worth approaching Jensen with a modest 2-year deal. Somewhere around the neighborhood we was making right now, $10 million a year is fine with me. I'd love him a little bit less if possible, but I think he's playing at a really high level still. And
he is.
And at some point in time, he's going to have an injury, and the play is just going to fall off the cliff. I don't know if it happens this year, next year, or the year after, whatever, but he's getting up there in age. It's going to happen sooner rather than later. A short-term deal. I think that offensive line unit, they get along so well together, very tight-knit on and off the field. I think Ryan Jensen is motivated maybe to go out with Tom Brady and have that be his last year, whenever that is, a year or 2 from now.
One of the interesting things to consider here, if it is a 2-year deal, and he'll be 31 when next season starts, if it is a 2-year deal, it's probably a void year situation for the Bucs. There's not other years to push it to as much with the deal like that. So something to keep in mind when we're talking about that. But I agree with you. That's what makes the most sense, I think, is to try and keep him around. Probably stays at about the rate that he's at now, I would think. Yeah. Does he want that? Does he want a 4-year deal somewhere else where he's going to get more money long-term, or does he want it, or does he say, you know what, I'm probably only going to play 2 more years. The way I play, my body's going to fall apart at that point.
Exactly.
So, Matt, what do you think about Ryan Jensen?
Right. I think that's a big question with Jensen is it comes down to, can the Bucs get him with the short deal, like a 2-year deal, as you guys just mentioned, or if it's going to be the 4-year deal, a little more money. He's about 7th highest in the league right now in terms of centers getting paid for average annual value. I think too, we've seen since Tom Brady has been in Tampa, he's not really afraid to lobby or politic to get some of his guys, whether it's been Antonio Brown or getting Leonard Fournette, or putting in a call to Richard Sherman. And Ryan Jensen, I think, falls into that category of he's a Brady guy. Tom Brady's going to want him no matter what. So he'll bang on the table to be like, no, we need Ryan Jensen back. And again, as I mentioned before, I think it comes into, okay, if you're not going to keep this guy, how do you replace him? And I think with Jensen, obviously, Alex Kappa is in the discussion because they're the 2 offensive linemen that could potentially leave in free agency. And if Jensen's like, okay, I want more money. Well, if I'm not here, who are you going to replace me with? And it's like, okay, well, you have a rookie in Robert Hainsey, but that's a lot of trust in a guy that we haven't really seen play too much, and he missed some of training camp and the preseason. Where Kappa, if Kappa goes, hey, I want more money or I want a big contract, the Bucs can go say, well, we have Aaron Stinney. We won a Super Bowl with him while you were injured. So Kappa doesn't really have too much of a bargaining chip right then and there. And then also the Hainsey thing, while Jensen would use that in his argument, the Bucs could use Hainsey in an argument of, well, we have Hainsey for a 2nd year. If we can re-sign Stinney, then we have Hainsey as like a potential future interior offensive lineman. I know they're training him at center, but he could just move to guard almost just as easily too. So I think that is where it's in the Bucs' best interest to bring back Jensen, because with a guy like Kappa, you have a lot more options.
Yeah, and it's important to remember Hainsey was a right tackle every single snap in college. He didn't play any other positions in college.
Yeah.
So
it would be such
you're
a
already
risk.
moving him, but you're
Such
trying
a
to
risk
also ask him to be the center for Tom Brady, right? Like that.
Yeah.
To me,
That's
trying to have him play
something-
guard is easier.
that's something where Tom Brady uses some clout and tells Jason Light,
Yeah.
no,
I'm
not
lobbying.
happening.
I want mine
Jensen
Not
now.
back.
happening. Yeah.
And remember, Stinney can't snap either. So you have two guard
Right.
options in Hainsey
Right.
and Stinney. You don't really have
Exactly.
another center.
There
option
are
right
a
now,
ton
so-
of options, and we can just skip right to Alex Kappa.
let's
Just
just
since
talk about it.
we're kind of doing that.
Mhm.
I mean, Hainsey, Stinney, John Molchin, Nick Leverett.
Another
So
free agent off the street for $3 million. There's guards
Yeah,
all over
right.
the place.
They
For an
have
offensive line
so
this
many
good.
options at guard. They're so deep there with guys that they like. Now, some of these guys are unproven, but they like them, and they keep a guy like Molchin around. This is, I think, his third year where they're keeping him around, and they love Leverett and Hutchinson. So I think they're stocked at guard. I don't see any scenario where Kappa comes back. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree with you. To me, it just financially doesn't make sense. You're already going to be pinching pennies. If you want to bring back those three big dogs, you're already going to have your work cut out for you. You got a bunch of 1 years you want to get done. You're looking at void years. Kappa's not a guy you want to be paying in 4 years. Just not. I mean, I like him a lot. I think he's gotten so much better. I love the culture fit, but you can't re-sign everybody. I know we said it last year, but this year, it's
And then
true.
they
You
did.
can't literally re-sign everyone. I don't think this year. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, listen for the Tampa people out there that have followed the Tampa Bay Lightning, like myself. Sorry, I'm on with you, Pittsburgh peeps. But the thing that Lightning did was they won the cup. They brought everybody back, right? They added a piece or two, and they won the cup, right? The third year, it becomes fiscally impossible for that to happen. You can't ramp up for a third year. You just can't. The economics don't work. That's why you saw, of course, Yanni Gord left with the Kraken in the expansion draft. Tyler Johnson had to go. Blake Coleman had to go. Shattenkirk had to go. Savard had to go. They couldn't afford to keep everybody. So then what happens is you kind of funnel it down to your core nucleus guys, and then add in some cheaper pieces in year three. And I think the Bucks are going to follow the exact same script next year with the Lightning. You're going to see some very familiar faces go bye-bye. And I think Alex Kappa is one of those guys for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. Matt, you agree?
Yeah, it was a great point. It's
Yeah.
just the amount of people you can replace Alex Kappa with completely outweighs the Ryan
Yeah.
Jensen.
You can reload one time, but you're not going to be able to reload again. You're going to have to rebuild a little bit.
Yeah.
You can replace a right guard in the Bucks offensive line.
No
with
doubt.
fine. Center, you're talking about snaps and blocks. That's two things.
To Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
the
to
key.
Tom Brady, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Jason Pierre-Paul. They're going to be 33 years old. The injury history is significant, and
Yeah.
it's starting to just become annual stuff. His body, the way he plays, is going to probably give out on him at some point.
Yep.
I don't think he's going to retire, though. He said he wants to play
Yeah.
till he's old, and
The problem
he
is
will continue to get money because of who he is in the locker
Yeah.
room from someone as a leader. He'll continue to get money. How much, how long term,
yeah,
that complicates things for his free agency, right, Scott?
it does. They love him. But are you getting JPP the cheerleader, or are you getting JPP the effective edge rusher? Right? You want
Mhm.
both, but it comes at a cost. You drafted Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, and we're seeing what's happening right now. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka with an unforgivable criminal 8 snaps against the Saints game, where yes, Jason Pierre-Paul broke up several passes, but you know what? Those were on screens, and that's
Yeah,
what they're
unblocked.
supposed to do. They're supposed to not block you, right? Let you come up the field and then dump it over, the head to the running back. So yeah, Jason Pierre-Paul got pressures in the game, but it wasn't meaningful. And he's, like you said, John, the injuries have really caught up to him. I love Jason Pierre-Paul. He's a warrior. He's a throwback player. He really appeals to me. I don't like the price tag. I don't like the fact that having him in the starting lineup at that price tag prevents Joe Tryon-Shoyinka from being in the starting lineup. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is the future. He's the first round pick. He showed enough glimpses to get you excited. He's not getting any better on the bench. You got to play him. And I think if you bring back JPP, you have to start him next year. And that means another year on the bench for Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, and you're doing the kid a disservice.
Okay, so JPP gone in your
Gone.
opinion. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said, Scott. I was going to use the term like everyone loves JPP. He's a warrior, and that's awesome that he's fighting through all these injuries. But at some point, you just want a healthy warrior. You know, you want someone that's going to be there the whole time. And I think it's commendable what JPP is doing. But like, when do we get to the point where it's like, hey, this is great that you're playing through injuries, but we got a guy that's healthy and younger and faster and can pretty much provide essentially the same amount of impact that you can, JPP. And
because he's healthy.
Right, exactly.
He's
And
younger.
kind of what JC was talking about earlier, where I don't think JPP is just going to be like, yeah, I'll come back and just have a lesser role and be a backup. That doesn't really strike
That's not him.
JPP's MO. And if he did do that, I feel like it would just create this weird awkwardness and tension in the locker room that is not unnecessary. And I'm not saying JPP's like, a bad person at all. He's
He
the
just
first
wants to
guy to
play.
start
Yeah.
rooting for everyone else.
Yeah.
Exactly. He just wants to play, and the direction that the Bucks are going, when they're going to need that double-digit contract that JPP has right now, they're going to need it to spend money on all these other players.
Yeah.
It seems like just the right type of move for him to not return next season.
Here's what I think. I think you guys are right about the contract. JPP is making 12.5 mil a year right now. That's
Yeah.
obviously not going to be anywhere close to what he makes on his next contract
Right.
because of the injuries, the decline in production, his age, all of it. I don't see JPP's situation as that dissimilar from where Justin Houston's been at, where Melvin Ingram was at this past offseason, where we saw all of a sudden Clay Matthews get to. Those guys, they were okay. We're just available. Here we are late in the summer and they're still available. I think JPP is going to want to see what his market is, to see if he can get more money on another chain with a chance of winning. I don't think he's going to get it. His health,
I agree.
all of it. I think so. I think he could come back.
He might come back in the
late
summer,
in the
right?
process.
Yeah.
On a 1 year, finish it out. And I think it's going to be cheap.
What,
I think
$5
it's going to
million?
be that kind of a deal. Maybe. And
4 to 5
maybe that's
million?
with incentives. I think that's what's going to happen.
You're right. You nailed it, John. Incentives. It's going to be
Yeah.
per game incentives because of the health issues and stuff like that. No doubt. If he were to come back in that situation, totally agree.
I'm not sure I see anybody going, oh yeah, hey, we want you for 3 years to
Right.
be our starter at 10 mil a year. I don't know that I see.
There's
that
always
happening.
a team that overpays, though. There's always a team
Maybe.
that
Maybe.
Hey,
But
JPP,
usually it's for a
he's the
younger
house-
player. Usually it's
Right.
for a younger player you think has,
Yeah.
they can be, this for they're 29 or 28 and they can be. I don't know that that's going to be the case with him. So he's a fascinating discussion for sure, especially to see how his health finishes out the year. The other thing, that shoulder, does he need surgery in the offseason?
Right.
And if he does, nobody's going to, they want to see what that looks like in a body
Yeah.
like his
Right.
at his age. So there's a lot of caveats with Jason Pierre-Paul.
Yep.
Let's go double whammy, Will Golston and Ndamukong Suh. Matt, what do you think happens with Will Golston and Ndamukong Suh?
Will Golson's the man. He's been through 1,000 different defenses during his tenure with the Bucks. I really don't see him leaving. He fits really well. He gets the defense. He loves playing for Todd Bowles. Suh, I think, Ndamukong Suh said something a couple weeks ago I thought was very interesting. He said, when I decide to retire, it's going to be because of a mental thing, not because I can't physically do it anymore. I think everyone just assumes that Ndamukong Suh is going to retire because he's got all the financial things going on. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. But part of me feels like Ndamukong Suh still wants to play next season for whatever reason. If he decides to play, I don't think he goes anywhere else besides the Bucks. And if he retires, hats off to you. Incredible career. I think they're both back if they both, Golston, I think, will continue to keep playing. If Suh wants to play, I think he'll be back with the Bucks. Because again, if Suh's not there, yeah, you got Vita Vea, Will Golston, solid backup guys like Nacho, but that's a drop off if Ndamukong Suh isn't back, and who knows where the Bucks go in the draft. But it would definitely be a drop off if he's not there.
This one's hard. Golston to me is easy. That he's clearly back. He's young
Yeah.
enough, and he doesn't have a lot of snaps on his body because of his
Right.
role. He's gotten better
Perfect
as he's
fit.
aged. Yeah, perfect fit.
At $5
couple more
to $6
years.
million per year, which is what he's
Right.
making right now. That's
not
fine.
really
That's-
not on the national radar enough to
Right.
generate, to drive up your price much. So
Yeah.
I think he's easily back. Suh is hard because if his asking price is the 7-8 mil range, Suh's still a really good run defender,
Yeah.
but he isn't a pass rusher. He hasn't been for years.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I don't think, in my opinion, that he's really not that he's not worth. Whatever in terms of relative worth, but just look at the Bucs situation. They've got a lot of people to pay, and Suh is older, and he's older. He's probably, with McClendon not really playing much now, he's probably going to be
Right.
the lowest defensive tackle to really play this year in the league. And so I think the time might come for that. How do you work that without doing more void years? And do you really want to start doing more void years for Ndamukong Suh? You got to be able to replace the player like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
you
agree.
agree?
Yeah, $9 million this season is tough, right? He only counts 3,
Yeah.
so he's going to hit the cap for $6 million next year
Right.
already. So I think that if he were to come back, it would be for that $6 million. I think that's the only way they would do it and say, we want you, but But when you come back, we're going to cut your snaps. We're going to cut your pay as a result. And I don't think Ndamukong Suh is going to want to come back next year. I think he's done that.
I think he can retire.
Yeah, I think he will.
He can retire. Yeah, there's a lot going on for him, man. He's got it made.
Yep.
He's ready to start that life outside of football.
Yeah,
I think.
no
We're just
doubt about
guessing,
it.
but I think I could be on the horizon for him. So okay, that's what we see happening with the defensive tackles. Now the running backs. Scott, what do you think? Giovanni Bernard, Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette. Who's gone? Who's back?
I don't see any way Rojo comes back. I don't think they want him back. To be honest, he's a liability in the passing game. I don't think he wants to come back. I think there's some bad blood there. He feels like he's not getting used. So this is one of those see ya type deals at the end of the season. They shake hands, they say goodbye. That's it. Sayonara. I think Fournette, there is a chance. I think that he knows this is a good fit. I think they're going to do the exact same thing as they did last year, which is, let him test the market. And listen, if you're Leonard Fournette and some team decides to have a brain fart and pay a running back like Todd Gurley, like Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, all these deals that get done and these backs end up getting hurt. It's like fool's gold. I think that if he wants to come back another 1-year deal around $3 million, they'll take him. If not, they'll draft a running back. They love Keyshawn Vaughn. They don't have to run the ball. It's great that they have. It's provided some balance. The first 3 weeks of the season, they literally did not run the ball. They still put up points. They were 2-1. Obviously, the only loss was to the Rams. Gio maybe comes back. I would say as of right now, Gio probably comes back on a veteran minimum deal. Rojo's gone.
He's so cheap, yeah.
Yeah, and Fournette's only back if it's 1 year, $3 million.
Yeah. Okay. Matt, you agree?
Yeah. Rojo, I like him as a runner, but he doesn't have a fit in this offense anymore. You can almost see it in Bruce Arians' face every time he gets a question about Rojo. You can see him start to get angry on the inside. I feel bad for Leonard. I feel bad for running backs in general because the proof is in the pudding that you don't need to pay running backs, but it sucks when a guy plays so well and deserves a contract, but he's not going to get one because financially it doesn't make sense. So I think with Leonard Fournette, it's like, who else is really going to pay him so much? Teams have learned from the McCaffreys and Saquons and all of those deals. So I think Lenny could be back just because, again, the market's not there. And Gio Bernard is a cheap deal to begin with.
And trust me, Jason Light learned from the Doug Martin deal.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to see him give a multi-year deal to a running back again. And he's not afraid to draft a running back. I mean, the Jeremy McNichols deal didn't work out.
That's the other side.
Rojo's been okay. They drafted Vaughn. They'll draft.
Yeah, why not take a risk with the running back in the draft? Yeah. If you already have one veteran guy there and you get another rookie and they turn it into something awesome. If not, you're in the same boat that you were just in.
I got something awesome for you guys. It's called mybookie.ag. When I gamble,
what?
I'm always looking for a way to get the edge. But at MyBookie, they double your first deposit. So when you start, you're going to start with the leg up. Use the promo code PEWTER to sign up now. Claim your first deposit bonus with MyBookie. Use your extra funds to kickstart your winning season. This weekend, lay the points with Arizona as they continue with streaking in San Francisco and with the two top 10 offenses and the Titans and Rams. It's going to be toe-to-toe on Sunday night. We'll see how they do without Derrick Henry, but you can safely smash the over at MyBookie. Don't take my word for it. Head to MyBookie, sign up now using the promo code PEWTER to get your money doubled and start winning today. Remember, good friends, don't let friends win alone. So when you have your buddies, use the referral link so you're eligible to receive an additional 250% bonus on their first deposit. Plus, it's unlimited, so redeem so all of your friends can join the party at MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie using promo code PEWTER.
I think Gio's back. I think Leonard Fournette, I don't know because it depends a lot. Rojo's obviously gone. Leonard Fournette, I don't know because it ultimately depends a lot on what the situation with Brady is. Because Fournette's not Rob Gronkowski. He's not Ndamukong Suh. He's not Antonio Brown. He's young. It was so funny. I was listening back to the game broadcast with audio after the game the other day, and Troy Aikman's like, everybody's talking about Tom Brady found him the fountain of youth, but what about Leonard Fournette? I'm like, what about him? He's like 26 years old, right? Like,
That's insane.
I don't know why people think he's so old, but it just was such a weird comment. And then he went on to say how Fournette's like found this youthful invigoration, and I'm just
It
like,
seems like he's been in the league for like a decade.
Really? I don't know.
It feels like he's been in
the
the
same
league
as
for a
Christian
very long
McCaffrey,
time.
that same class, Dalvin Cook. Like,
the problem with Fournette is he'll be 27 next year, right? If he gets the opportunity for any money, he's got to take it. He's got to go,
right,
and
right.
he's got to take it because he's only going to get one shot at a big contract.
And if he can stay healthy, he's probably going to be the guy the rest of the season. And so that's
Right.
a whole season to prove yourself rather than last year where he was going to get cut, coming out of the
Right.
bye. It's a healthy scratch. And then he had the 4 good playoff games. Sure. But, it wasn't enough in team's mind to offer the bag. Still you're talking about Kareem Hunt got $6 million. Like, is he going to get more than that? I don't think is the team going to pay him like an every down back? Is he going to get a big contract? I don't know. We'll see. We have a long way to go in the season. He has improved. I didn't think that would happen. He also likes it here, and he loves playing with Brady, and he thinks the organization's done a lot for him. That could matter. At his age, I just think it's not going to matter enough. So I'm guessing Fournette's not back, but we'll see. There's a lot still to be determined about Lenny, just because we got to see what his production looks like the rest of the way, how much he's going to price himself out. OJ Howard, Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown. What happens with these 3 offensive weapons, Matt?
Well, if Gronk wants to keep playing, he's obviously on those 1-year deals. If Gronk wants to play, I think Gronk will be back here. It wasn't like the worst cap hit when he re-signed with the team. And I think he's shown when he's healthy how valuable he is to the team, both as a blocker and obviously in the red zone this year. He was great as a receiver up until getting hurt. OJ Howard, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm done with the experiment. I just feel like, especially in this offense, like he could be great somewhere else because he could be a number 1, 2, or 3 target in another offense. But with this Buccaneers offense, that's just not really the case. He's had an opportunity with Gronk out these past couple games, and he did well in Philadelphia. Give him credit for that. I feel like half of his receptions are just screenplay, so it's not like he's doing things to really get open. So I think you let OJ go. You have Camp right there, and I think you can get away too with, the Bucs would love another blocking tight end. Mm-hmm. You can find a guy late in the draft or some of these other undrafted free agents that try out in training camp. Mm-hmm. AB is really the interesting one because the Bucs got him for over $3 million. I'm not totally sure what he would get on the market for this upcoming offseason, because when he's played, he's been incredible. I think we can all agree to that. He's been tremendous. But now there's been a little bit of an injury history, and you obviously have to factor in all of his off the field stuff. Do you believe that he's gone enough amount of time where it's like, okay, we don't have to worry about this anymore? Mm-hmm. That's for every team to decide. Obviously, if he gets a bigger, like if teams want to give him a lot more money, I think the Bucs are like, all right, well, they have Tyler Johnson, Jalen Darden, still finding out what you can get with him. I think AB walks in that situation. If you get him again for around that $3 million mark, we obviously know his relationship with Tom Brady, then he's right back here. It just depends how much of that difference that teams are going to want to pay him for, that I think it comes down to.
Yeah. Gronkowski, I think there's too many marketing opportunities for Gronk, right? Not Rob Gronkowski, but for Gronk. Whether it's wrestling, whether it's commercials, he's got a brand. And I think him winning another Super Bowl with Brady in Tampa has just peaked it even more. I think there's more off the field things he can pursue. I think he does that. I think he comes back and says, "Hey, Tampa, I'll play for $9 million again." They're like, "No, not $9 million. We're not going to do that. We can't afford to do that because we had to pay other guys. You're not as high on the pecking order." I think Brady will want Gronk back, but I think at the end of the day, this rib injury, we got to remember,
it's a tough one.
It is, and Gronk retired because of injuries in New England. Now he had a great year, felt new, won a Super Bowl, all that stuff. All of a sudden, wham! You break some ribs, you puncture a lung. This is not fun, right? It wasn't fun him getting re-injured again, especially with the back, spasms and all that. I think this is a signal to him that
And he
this
doesn't
is
need
his
to
last
prove
year.
anything. He's got the
Correct.
Super Bowls. He's got the individual accolades. He's a future Hall of Famer. He literally, especially like you said, winning the Super Bowl with the Bucs last season, he literally has nothing else to prove.
Yep, I agree with you, Matt. The OJ Howard experiment is going to come to an end. Listen, there's going to be a team out there that's going to make Jason Light very happy because there's a team that's going to look at OJ Howard, look at the highlight
Oh, he's
reel.
so athletic. Like we can change
He
things
looks like
for him.
Adonis. He looks the part. The highlight reel is great, but it's really short. But on with his age, with projections, someone's going to cash in on paying him money, and then that's going to help the Buccaneers when it comes to compensatory draft picks. So Jason Light's going to be like, "That's great. Give me a third rounder for OJ Howard." Essentially, AB general managers around the league are savvy enough to know that in this bubble, in this cocoon with Tom Brady and Bruce Arians, the AB experiment is working, but it didn't work at the end of the road in Pittsburgh. It didn't work in what was it, Oakland at the time?
I think it was
Las
the
Vegas?
last year.
Raiders.
Yeah, Raiders. With the Raiders, it didn't work, right? So it's like, if we take AB out of this bubble, is it going to still work without the support system that he's used to in Tampa? I don't think so. That's why I think general managers are going to look at his age, his injuries, and say, I'd love to. If this was Madden, I would make the trade. Like I would sign him, right? But this isn't Madden. This is real world football, and I think AB returns to Tampa because this is a wide receiver driven offense. They want him back, and it might be for $5-6 million, probably a 1-year deal again.
Yeah, AB's going to be 34 next year. He's still an absolute baller, but the injuries matter at this point, and it's been banged up a good bit now, a couple things. And so there's no way
I think he gets a raise, though. I think
he could get a raise, more incentives, or more easier to hit incentives, or the incentives are more likely to hit. All those things are possible. The Bucs are kind of in this perfectly sweet spot where it's clearly a great situation. He's clearly too old to get a big contract and a lot of money somewhere else, but he's perfect for them. Here's my take. You guys don't have to react to it. I think Antonio Brown is the more valuable, more important for this team to bring him back than even Ryan Jensen. That's my take. I know everybody won't agree with it, but I think it's that important to bring him back. Him, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, those three as the wide receivers with Brady. I think it's easier to replace the center than to replace three wide receivers that dynamic, that much of a matchup challenge for other teams. I think Gronkowski will retire. We'll see. Yeah. Obviously, we're growing recency bias there, but if he's great at the end of the season, 100% healthy and no pain, we'll see.
The other thing too, real quick on the tight ends, they like Deion Felder. He was actually active for the other the other week's game. They have him in the hopper. They've spent 2 years now trying to develop Cody McElroy. He's still sticking around. I think that he's coming around. They've got some options. The tight end's really devalued in this offense. It's a wide receiver driven offense. So they got some options in house.
All right, quickly. We all think Richard Sherman's gone, right?
Yes.
And Jordan Whitehead, what do we think? Real quickly, just yes or no, he's back or not?
I don't think so. Unless it's a super cheap deal. He hits free agency because of the injuries, because of his lack of size, because maybe some people say he's a scheme safety. If his market's devalued for those reasons, he can come back on a 1 or 2 year cheap deal, but he's not going to break the bank at all.
He's still young enough. He's got the starting experience. He's only missed a couple of real games due to injury. I think he's going to price himself out, Matt.
I think Whitehead is the perfect candidate as the example of a guy who was a big contributor to a team that won a Super Bowl. Other teams see that, and he gets the bag for probably more money than maybe
Dexter Jackson
that he should get. That he should get, but another team will pay him that money. And kudos to you if you get that bag. So I think he's a prime candidate for that. So he won't be back.
Yeah, I like him, but I don't think it's going to happen. All right, great stuff. We got through the roundtable. Tomorrow, we talked to Brad Spielberger of Pro Football Focus. He's the cap expert. He tells us, how the heck are we making all this work? The Bucs only have so much cap space. How are we going to bring back the guys we think are going to come back? Is it possible? Is it not? Tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, we'll have Brad on the channel. Very excited to talk to him, get his thoughts and opinions on whether this is realistic for the Bucs and what they have to do to bring back some of their top priorities. So if you want to know what's possible this upcoming offseason for the Bucs, just like he did last year, Brad will give us the lowdown, and I think he's going to be spot on just like he was last year with talking about this stuff. So we're excited about it. For Casey and JC, for Scott, for Matt, I'm John Ledyard. Thanks so much for listening and watching. Subscribe to the Pewter Report, and thanks so much for listening and watching to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.